Have you ever gone through something so heartbreaking that you wondered if you'd ever feel normal again? That's where this story begins, with a man who thought grief made him broken, until he learned it was just trying to guide him back to himself. Elliot Vance had always hated Tuesdays. Not for any particular reason. Tuesdays were simply the day the world felt too loud and too fast. And on this particular Tuesday, the world felt like it was pressing its entire weight onto his chest. It had been 8 months since his younger sister, Clara, passed away. 8 months since the family home grew too quiet. 8 months since people stopped sending flowers and started assuming he was doing better. But Elliot wasn't doing better. He was doing different, which wasn't the same thing at all. He moved through the city like a ghost that morning, weaving between traffic and faces he didn't recognize. The crosswalk signal clicked. The cafe lines buzzed. The buses growled. Everything kept moving, like nothing had happened. But inside, Elliot felt stuck, as if grief had frozen time around him. His therapist had asked him last week, "What are you afraid of feeling?" And Elliot had answered honestly, "Everything." That was the only word he had. Around noon, he found himself wandering into a small botanical garden near the river. He didn't even remember choosing to go there. His feet just carried him. The garden was quiet, almost too quiet. He sat on a weathered bench beneath a tree and stared at the leaves swaying softly in the breeze. And for the first time all day, he let the silence settle on him rather than fight it. He didn't cry. He didn't suppress anything either. He just existed. A gentle voice broke through the stillness. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Elliot turned. A woman sat at the other end of the bench, older, maybe in her late 60s. She wore a lavender scarf and had warm eyes that felt strangely familiar. He nodded. "I guess so." "You're missing someone," she said quietly. Not as a question, as a knowing. Elliot felt his chest tighten. "Yeah, my sister." The woman smiled softly, not with pity, but with understanding. "I lost my husband 5 years ago," she said. "The hardest part wasn't the grief itself. It was thinking the grief meant something was wrong with me." Elliot exhaled shakily. "People keep telling me I should be moving on by now." "Grief isn't a train schedule," she replied gently. "It moves at its own pace." He blinked, not because he disagreed, but because no one had said it so plainly to him before. For months, he had thought he was failing at grieving, that he was taking too long, that he was too emotional on some days and too numb on others. "It's normal, you know," she added. "All of it. The anger, the guilt, The days you can't cry and the days you can't stop. Then she leaned in slightly. What you're feeling means you love deeply. It doesn't mean you're broken. Her words slipped into the cracks he'd been ignoring. Elliot didn't expect the tears, but they came, slow at first, then in trembling waves. He covered his face with his hands, and the woman simply rested a gentle hand on his shoulder. No pressure, no rush, no expectations. You're safe, she whispered. It's okay to feel it. And for the first time since Clara's passing, Elliot allowed himself to grieve without apologizing for it, without pretending, without pushing it down. The tears were not a sign of weakness. They were proof that he was still living, still loving, still human. When the crying eased, the woman handed him a small tissue from her bag. Grief doesn't leave, she said, but it transforms, and so will you. He nodded, wiping his eyes. Thank you. I didn't even get your name. She stood, smiled tenderly, and said, My name doesn't matter. Just promise me you won't be ashamed of your heart. Let it heal in its own time. Then she walked down the garden path and disappeared behind a wall of flowering vines. Elliot sat alone again, but this time the quiet didn't hurt. This time the quiet felt honest. He didn't suddenly feel better, but he felt allowed to feel, allowed to hurt, allowed to heal without a timeline. And he realized something simple, but life-changing. Grief isn't a sign something is wrong with you. It's a sign something mattered. And healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to breathe again. He stood up from the bench, took a long breath, and stepped back into the world. Not fixed, not fully healed, but finally moving forward in his own time. Together, let's move from doubt to power, one story at a time.